Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome, living beneficiaries, to the show for living beneficiaries, the House of Hidalgo show on the Estate Radio Network. Prepare for the most educational 60 minutes on all of radio with your host, Rick Hidalgo. The House of Hidalgo show can be followed on Twitter or Facebook by searching House of Hidalgo. Find the show on the web at www.therockofsalem.org. Sign up for the newsletter, and while you're there, take the 5-question survey to let us know what you think. The Estate Radio Network is part of the Blog Talk Radio family of networks and can be found at www.blogtalkradio.com/South Dakota DP. Join the show now by chat or call 619-639-4605. Don't forget to dial 1 to get in the queue. Here's your host, Rick Hidalgo! Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is your host, Rick Hidalgo. This is the House of Hidalgo show on the Estate Radio Network. And we have another beautiful day here in South Dakota. As I look out, it's beautiful blue skies, and I'm enjoying this weather. But more enjoyable than this weather is the conversation that we're about to have today with a really interesting lady. And you're going to find out a whole lot more about her here in just a moment. I just want to guide people here to the website. If you go to blogtalkradio.com/South Dakota DP, there is a lot of information on that website, and you can go down to the bottom where the chat room is, and you can participate in the chat and ask your questions. You could also call the number 619-639-4605 to participate in the call. But without any further ado, I want to introduce our guest. Our special guest today is Diana Reeves. And Diana Reeves, where I met her was on her website, gmofreeusa.org. But Diana Reeves is a Connecticut mom turned activist, founded GMO Free USA in response to a failed initiative to label genetically engineered foods in her home state in May 2012. Diana was on a fast track at a major accounting firm when her firstborn son was diagnosed with cancer at the age of 2. She walked away from her career to care for him and to become a stay-at-home mom. Her son died before he turned 5, and she has since raised 3 additional children. After that, Diana's family developed autoimmune disease and other health problems, and she began to learn about the connections between these diseases and the genetically modified foods that we eat. So without any further ado, I want to bring Diana on. Diana, are you with us?
I'm here. Thank you for having me on today, Rick.
Oh, it's totally my pleasure. It's a huge issue. A lot of people are finding themselves right in the middle of this battle with GMO foods as people get sicker and sicker for the toxins that they're taking in and all the different things that the reactions that our bodies are having with these GMOs, and you looks like you've been part of this particular fight for a while now, and your bio does give us a good understanding of where you came from, but maybe could you dive a little bit deeper into that and tell my listeners exactly what got you going on this GMO thing?
I guess I've always been environmentally and health conscious, since I lost my son. And GMOs were on my radar when I first read about them, and subsequently learned that they were banned in Europe because there was major consumer uprising due to the precautionary principle, which is really the most responsible way to proceed when you have something that's so new and so chemical-laden introduced into your food supply. And so my concerns grew as the amount of GMOs in our food supply grew, and GMOs are so pervasive now that is extremely challenging to avoid them. A friend of mine called and said that she was going to a meeting, which was a GMO-free Hartford meeting, and she actually got me involved in the state of Connecticut. I'd already been telling friends, yes, you're eating them, and no, they haven't been proven safe. And I think they got a little bit tired of hearing that from me. But now, the word is getting out, and more people are becoming aware of the situation with our food supply. So based on my background with, having lost a child to cancer, I became very, very sensitive to anybody who puts children at risk, and, finding out that these GMOs are actually in baby food and are being fed to children was horrifying to me. So I decided that this was a fight that needed to be taken on, and I got heavily involved.
And I tell you, I'm really glad that you did, because as I view it, I've looked all over the place for different people to have on this program about this issue, because it's such a huge issue. And when I ran into you, your name is out there. You're all over this thing, and you got some things going on within that GMO world that's really that I'm sure my listeners are going to be very interested in finding out about some of the fights that you're in right now. Could you tell us a little bit about the your particular organization? How big is it? How many people you guys have working with you? So on and so forth.
Well, GMO Free USA was founded, as you said, out of my frustration with the labeling law that didn't pass in Connecticut, and that was about a year ago. And since then, we're primarily on Facebook. We have a Facebook group that has approximately 10,000 members, and there's another 1,400 people that are waiting to join in the queue. But we are taking our time improving new members, because there are a lot of biotechs trying to get into the group, both to spy on us and, to spur conversations that pit people against one another and create a bit of trouble there. So I actually had one of them approach me about 8 or 9 months ago and asked me to give them admin privileges in the group, and I know they plan to delete the group. So they are quite naughty, and it's best to keep them out. But we have almost 40,000 fans on Facebook now on our Facebook page, so our audience is growing and our supporters are growing. And we are an entirely grassroots organization. We have no funding. And our goal is to bring consumers together to educate and to speak collectively to food manufacturers to force their hand to remove GMOs from their products, one company at a time.
Awesome. And being a member of that group myself, I go on there quite often and see what kind of conversation's going on, and you got a lot of really good proactive people in there. And so I'm very thankful for what you're doing there, Diana.
We do try to encourage people to become activists. That's a big part of what we do, educate and encourage activism.
Right.
So thank you for being part of the group, by the way.
Oh, it's like I said, this is totally my privilege. I like to become part of things that are proactive rather than reactive, because I want to get out there before it becomes a he said, she said type of deal. So I love what you're doing, and I didn't have to read very much. And you and I had a little conversation the other day, and you were telling me about some things that you guys had. You picked, if you will, you picked your fight, and you decided, hey, this is who we're going to go after. And I'd like you to kind of tell that story. I think it was a beautiful story.
I would be happy to share that. I guess the goal initially was to grow the group to a minimum of 5,000 members before we launched any campaigns, because we needed to have a little bit of numbers behind what we were saying. And when we got to that point, I had thought long and hard over who our first boycott target would be, and it was Kellogg's. And it is Kellogg's. It still is Kellogg's. We have been growing the boycott for, as I said, a year now. Since last July, actually. And we selected them for a long list of reasons. Kellogg's has been an American icon for over 100 years, and they like to be associated with a wholesome family image, and they market their products primarily to children, which to me is very disturbing, because these GMOs that are in their products, they have not been proven safe. And I think it's irresponsible, personally, to feed this stuff to children, because you don't know what the long-term health impacts are. And they sell the same products abroad that don't have any GMOs in them in countries that require labeling. because those countries, consumers have rejected GMOs, and they know if it's on the label and it says contains genetically engineered sugar or whatever, people won't buy them. So if they can do it over there, they should be able to do it here for us as well. And they don't want you to know that their products have GMOs in them. They spent almost $800,000 on propaganda to fight Proposition 37 in California last fall. They pumped a whole bunch of propaganda into the media. They were among companies with an aggregate of over $46 million worth of propaganda, trying to convince people that their food prices would increase, and they really didn't need to know what was in their food because it was safe, and rather than incur $400 extra cost a year, which is totally rubbish, they really didn't need labeling. And what we did in support of Prop 37, we created a video, we did some research, and what we found was that in many countries that require labeling around the world, Kellogg's cornflakes are actually cheaper. So in England, Belgium, Spain, Germany, and Australia, they were trying to convince us it would cost us more money, but Kellogg's cornflakes have no GMOs, and they are actually cheaper. So, we've been piling on Kellogg's. And every time you call, they give you a different answer. I first started calling before we launched the boycott and asked if they used genetically modified ingredients in their products, and I was told, oh, yes, the FDA says they're safe, and they were very proud to tell me that they used GMOs. Well, after we had been calling and emailing and posting on their Facebook page for about a month, I called again, and I got a different answer. This time they told me, we really don't know if we use GMOs because we don't test. And I said, well, that's quite interesting because the last time I called you, you proudly told me that you do use GMOs and that the FDA says they're safe. And I can tell you that I don't personally think they're safe because they haven't been adequately tested, and I'm afraid I won't be able to buy your products while you're using GMOs. And the next time I called them, which was about a month later, I got another totally different answer. They told me, Kellogg's avoids GMOs, but we can't guarantee there's no cross-contamination. And so it seems what's happening nowadays is they tailor their response to whatever they think the caller wants to hear, and you get a variety of responses every time you call them. So what GMO for USA did, we did a small fundraiser, and we decided to do a test. So we sent Kellogg's Fruit Loops to a lab for testing, for genetic testing, to find out exactly how much GMO was in that product. And horrifyingly enough, the lab said that the corn in Kellogg's Fruit Loops was 100% derived from genetically modified corn, and the soy as well. We didn't test the sugar because there really was no need, because 100% of the sugar beet in the U.S. food supply is genetically modified. So you can derive, your conclusions about the sugar without testing. And once we did that, I actually hand-delivered a copy of that lab report to Kellogg's headquarters in Battle Creek, Michigan, over Earth Day weekend. We were there outside their headquarters. We actually did honk and wave demonstrations around the country in over 70 cities, which were very benign, peaceful rallies where we stood in groups, mostly near grocery stores, on corners, and we had banners and posters that said boycott Kellogg's, GMOs are bad for people and planet, and things along those lines. And we waved and people honked and handed out materials and information about GMOs. And so I participated in the honk and wave in Battle Creek, Michigan, and after I actually delivered a copy of the lab report in an envelope with some other materials for John Bryant, who's their CEO. I had actually called Kellogg's headquarters several weeks before and told them that I would be in Battle Creek, and I requested a meeting with him, telling him that I was representing hundreds of thousands of families and moms from around the country, and that I would like to discuss Kellogg's use of genetically engineered ingredients in their products. And I was told that he was unavailable. I did say I had a petition to deliver, and they told me they would be happy to receive the petition, that I could come on inside and drop it off. So along with the petition, which we had, I guess it was about 22,000 signatures at the time, and 590 pages of comments from concerned individuals that went along with it. I also delivered a copy of the lab report and a little letter that I wrote to him, which said that, our community is a little bit confused, or was a little bit confused, by the variety of responses that we received from Kellogg's customer service reps when we called to ask if you're using genetically modified ingredients. And so we decided to do a test to clear up any confusion your company might have about the ingredients in your products. And so
Right.
he has a copy of that report now. Just letting him know that we're not taking it, We want transparency.
Right. Right. Yeah, that's really awesome. And you were sharing with me that that you're not a 6'8" woman either. That you're that when you went in there, you ended up meeting with their security person. I think that's what you were.
It was very interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was very interesting.
So
I'm about 5'4", yeah, and I got to the reception desk, and the receptionist did not look me in the eye. She picked up the phone, looked down, and said, "She's here." And then she did say, "Someone will be right with you." And I actually asked if she knew what a genetically modified food was, and she said, "I'm not allowed to speak to you." And I said, "I'm terribly sorry. I didn't mean to put you in an awkward position. I won't say another word." And this very imposing gentleman came down the stairs. I shook his hand, reached out and smiled, and found out later that he was the chief of global security. And I thanked him graciously for accepting our petition, and I told him my concerns about feeding these untested GMOs to children who are especially vulnerable because they're growing and their bodies are small and vulnerable. And I told him that GMOs make me sick, and I'm very concerned that they're doing the same thing to children. So I asked, that they please seriously remove GMOs from all of their products.
Right. Brave, and I love it. That's awesome.
It had to be done.
Oh, absolutely, and you did it for me too. So I appreciate that. I want to ask you, what kind of media response did you get from local media, national media to your honkin' waves?
We did get some spotty coverage, but we didn't get a whole heck of a lot. The press release did go out, but as you probably are well aware, most of these things are not getting coverage. So, there are reasons it's being kept out of the media. Partially because the advertising revenue would be in jeopardy by anyone, in mainstream media who gives us coverage. And partly because the powers that be, I saw an interview on Fox, I think it was Fox, about the GMO issue, where they quote-unquote present both sides of the story, and the commercials were Roundup commercials, Monsanto's Roundup. So you know who was sponsoring that, and they actually tried to discredit the lady that was interviewed who was anti-GMO. So they didn't give her, very much support there at all.
Right. Typical. So I just figured I'd ask that question, and then we can move on to a different concept here. You kind of been self-studying this GMO issue because of different autoimmune disease issues within your own family. I wonder, could you share some of that? What have you found when it comes to autoimmune disease and GMOs?
I would be happy to share that. If you look at the research, and the unknown health risks, GMOs are linked to autoimmune disease. And I guess there are a variety of reasons that that's a problem. Anytime you have inflammation in the digestive system, you are at risk for other diseases. And I guess the Bt corn, the Bt toxins, cause the cell membranes in your digestive tract to rupture, which can lead to leaky gut. And when you have leaky gut, things leak into your bloodstream through your digestive system that have not been properly digested. You have proteins that get into your bloodstream and can potentially cause your body to react on an autoimmune basis or on an allergy type basis, depending on what your genetic makeup is. And so I do believe that all of this GMO stuff is leading to an increase in celiac disease. My family, 4 of us actually have celiac disease, and we were all diagnosed around the same time, which leads me to believe that there was some common trigger, because why would we all get sick around the same time? And my daughters and I also have Hashimoto's autoimmune hypothyroidism. And so I've had, I guess, health problems since, it's probably 3 or 4 years, maybe since we've been diagnosed now. And what I've done is I've peeled back the layers to try and figure out what's making me sick. And so initially after the celiac diagnosis, the gluten was gone, and then I felt better for a time. And then I found that I was also reacting to dairy. And doing laboratory tests to confirm, I gave up dairy, had an accident, and then had my antibody levels checked and found that my thyroid antibodies spiked after consuming dairy. So casein is also an autoimmune trigger, not just for me, but also for my girls as well. I'm sometimes the guinea pig to figure these things out, and then they follow suit and feel better. And then after a time, I still wasn't feeling well, so soy was the next thing to go, and felt better, for a while after removing soy, which interferes with your thyroid hormones and is primarily genetically modified and sprayed with Roundup. So who knows whether it's the foreign protein that was making me feel ill or the Roundup that it was sprayed with that was making me feel ill, because there have not been any studies that can pinpoint what the reactions are. So we don't know for sure, but we do know that taking soy out, I did feel better. And then once again, I was having problems where I was not feeling well, and I totally couldn't understand what it could be, because I had cleaned up my diet to the point where I was gluten-free, dairy-free, soy-free, and I was also GMO-free, because, I have all these reservations about the safety of these foods. So in my own best interest, when I'm having health problems, it makes sense to remove them as best I could. So turns out that I was actually consuming vitamins that contain genetically modified corn and genetically modified soy. And the only way to find out was to call all the companies and to ask them, very specific questions about the ingredients. Once I removed the vitamins and replaced them with vitamins which are not inclusive of genetically modified ingredients, within 3 weeks my health returned. And I feel so much better now than I've felt in years. It's unbelievable. My digestive system has calmed down. My energy level is restored. I had been diagnosed with chronic fatigue, and I had a low body temperature. I spent months where I was unable to get out of the chair. It was an effort just to go to the grocery store. And now I feel like the weight has been lifted and I'm back to normal. So it's actually an incredible transformation, just removing genetically modified ingredients in my vitamins.
Right. Right. Well, and I'm glad to hear that you were able to peel it back and find it. 'Cause a lot of people just trust whatever their doctors tell them. Now, how did you have any response from your doctors? Did they side with you on this?
Well, I actually see an MD who specializes in conventional and alternative medicine for the autoimmune issues, and he's been very supportive. And he says, there's no doubt that foreign proteins could trigger all kinds of reactions. But part of the problem is they don't know what to test for, because it could be that we are developing new diseases in reaction to these foreign proteins. On the other hand, my GP, when I approached her about the possibility, she told me that GMOs are good and that we need GMOs to feed the world. And I haven't seen her since.
Oh. Now, the last time that we talked, you had mentioned a movie, and it was a documentary that was put out called Genetic Roulette.
Mm-hmm.
I actually watched that, and it is absolutely awesome. It's chock full of all kinds of things. So I wanted to get that word out on this in this conversation as well. Do you have anything to say about that movie?
I would like to tell everyone that movie is a must-see, absolutely must-see. That it was voted the most transformational film of 2012, and for good reason. It's an eye-opener. It really is. Very well done, very comprehensive. It links to health problems, to GMOs, environmental issues, and it also looks at the behind-the-scenes stuff, that has actually propelled all these things into our food supply.
Right. So I wonder, is there another area that you'd like to dive into here concerning GMOs or links to sickness, or because I figured on the second half of our show, which we're almost at halftime here, we could dive into maybe some of the things that you're planning on doing. Some of the maybe you could reach out to people through this program. There might be some people out there who want to help you that kind of thing. But is there anything else with the last 5 minutes in the first half of our program that you'd like to use to upgrade your platform?
I guess I would just, love to remind everyone that you can speak with your dollars and your wallet and your fork. And, if you find it overwhelming to avoid all products that are on the market that contain GMOs, focus on Kellogg's and Gerber, because we've added Gerber as well. Back to my sensitivity with putting children at risk. We have, the 2 boycotts going now, not just Kellogg's, but Gerber also. And we do have some stuff planned, which I would love to share. I don't know if you want to take a break first or if you want to go into that now.
Yeah, we're gonna take a quick break. It's about 2-minute break, and then we'll be right back, and I'll reintroduce you into the program.
Oh, great, thank you so much.
Sure. Do you have hopes, dreams, and goals, but don't know how to reach them? Do you wonder how you could do differently to achieve greater success at home or at work? Do you feel like something is holding you back from enjoying your life to the fullest? Are you fed up with status quo and ready for real and lasting life change? Are you wanting to start a business or expand an existing one? If the answer to any of these questions is yes, then you are ready for life coaching with Mr. Attitude. Mr. Attitude will stretch and grow you and take your life to a whole new level of success by equipping you with the tools to help you to accomplish more in less time, get and keep your priorities in line, gain greater happiness and joy, face your fears, plan for success, be more assertive and confident, overcome negative stress, deal with negative thinking, set goals you will achieve, and more. Mr. Attitude specializes in results producing, life strategy coaching for the personal side of your life, small business coaching for those who want to start a small business or build a stronger small business, train the trainer coaching for those who aspire to become a motivational professional speaker. Call today and reserve your appointment with greater success. 605-450-1955. That's 605-450-1955. Or email Bob at MrAttitudespeaks.com. That's MrAttitudespeaks.com. Mr. Attitude is committed to your success. Do you remember the series of the 70s and 80s? You know, the Dukes of Hazzard, I Dream of Jeannie, Mork and Mindy, Hogan's Heroes, the list goes on and on and on. Of course you do. Why? Because they were family-friendly shows. What's the one place you can go on the internet to find them? www.retroshowsarbetter.com. Go by my A store and get yourself some popcorn and a movie and meet me there. This is the House of Hidalgo show. I am your host, Rick Hidalgo. We are on the telephone here with Diana Reeves of GMOFreeUSA.org. We spent the first half of the program discussing a lot of the things that are going on at GMO Free USA, the boycott against Kellogg's and Gerber, and she went into a lot of her history as to why she really started embracing this fight to begin with. And we talked about right before the break how we're going to come back on this side of the break and talk about maybe some of the initiatives that they're moving forward with, and give Diana an opportunity to reach out to people and get help. So if you have a piece of paper and a pen, you might want to get one. She may give you information that you'll want to write down and get involved in this fight. So without any further ado, Diana, welcome back to the call.
Thank you, Rick.
Go ahead.
I was going to say the big thing that's going on in the very near term is the 4th of July marches. Moms Across America, which is Zen Honeycutt, has been organizing marches in 4th of July parades, which are family-friendly, where families are going to be getting out and marching for food freedom. We're going to be marching all across the country. There's probably a parade near you. And we want to march for the freedom to choose what we eat and feed our families, and for transparency and labeling. And these parades are, they've been in the works for a couple months, and they're just upon us. It's next Thursday. I think some of them are not specifically on the 4th of July, but they're on or around the 4th of July. And you can find a parade near you if you go online to momsacrossamerica.com. You can sign up online and get more information there. I think it's a very powerful thing. We're bringing our Boycott Kellogg stuff as well so that we can get the word out. And there'll be information handed out to the parade spectators about GMOs to educate and, to reach out and try and, grow our boycotts as well.
That is awesome. Hey, I wonder, just for a little bit of a comical relief here, Americans are so creative, has anybody come up with a cool slogan, using some of those Kellogg's brands that you could share here?
Let's see. We have many slogans, and what we did is we had some suggestions for posters that were printable on a website called corporateactionnetwork.org. If you go to the campaign section of corporateactionnetwork.org, you'll see our Honk and Wave boycott campaign, and within that campaign, if you click on campaign materials, there are tons of slogan ideas for Kellogg's posters. The list is so long I couldn't cover them. But most people aren't aware of all of the products that Kellogg's makes. And to really comprehensively boycott Kellogg's, you need to include Morningstar, and you need to include Cheez-Its and Keebler cookies, and you need to include Famous Amos cookies and Carr crackers and cookies. You need to also include Kashi. Believe it or not, Kashi is owned by Kellogg's. And Kellogg's, when we contacted them, they said, well, anybody who wants to avoid GMOs should just buy Kashi. And there are many problems with that. First of all, Kashi is marketed as a premium brand, so it's more expensive. But primarily the reason that's a problem is there is only a limited number of products within the Kellogg's Kashi line that are actually free of GMOs. The rest of them, you're paying more money for GMOs, so there's really no point. So we're including Kashi in the boycott. And there are also, I'm trying to think of who I might have missed. I know there's another one. It's just not jumping out at me.
That's quite a line.
It is. And the list, Pringles, that's it. Yeah, Pringles are also made by Kellogg's. And if you think Pringles are potato chips, you are mistaken. They're made from GMO corn and GMO other ingredients as well. So they're pretty nasty.
And and they market it, of course, with a big smiley face on the outside.
They do, and they say newfangled, potato chip or whatever. I think was one of their original marketing campaigns. And we say newfangled GMOs. No, thank you. So, yeah.
All right. Well, that's clever. So you said that was corporateactionnetwork.org?
That's right. If you go to the campaign section and you click on our Kellogg's Honk and Wave campaign, and then you go to campaign materials within that campaign, there are a lot of slogans that would be related to Kellogg's. And there's also a list of all of their product lines as well.
That's
all of
great.
Their brands are in there. Yeah.
So do you, does any of the proceeds from anything that's sold there go to GMO-Free USA?
We actually are not selling anything, and we haven't done any formal fundraising as yet. We're hoping to, become a nonprofit at some point in the future, and we're trying to work on that now. So at that point, then we'd be able to better do some fundraising. We'd like to do more product testing, which would be a great way to make a difference, because what we really need is transparency, and we're not getting straight answers from a lot of these companies. So.
I should ask you this, and you probably know because you yourself choose not to buy GMO. So, we talk a lot about what not to buy. Could you maybe give us some examples of what to buy? What does Diana buy when she goes to the grocery store?
What Diana does is she pretty much shops the perimeter and avoids the processed food section. Most of what I do make from scratch these days. It's a little bit more work, but I know what I'm eating. So, I would say Whole Foods are a great way to go. We do either organic or grass-fed meats because otherwise they're fed GMOs, and it's been shown that the toxins do remain in the bloodstream and in the muscle tissue of the animals. So because we're so sensitive, we just don't take any risks. And I even make my own salad dressing because there's no soy lecithin in anything. And it is tough to find certain things, but I've been able to find more and more. Chocolate is now easier to find. Enjoy Life makes great products. They're going through non-GMO project verification, and they're allergen-free and GMO-free. So their products are also, on our list to buy in terms of the limited processed foods that we do consume. But it is a challenge. And one of the things I think that's useful is to know which foods in our food supply have been genetically modified. And I don't know if you've talked about that previously with your listeners, Rick, but I would be happy to go over that as well if you haven't.
Oh, please go ahead. This will be a great time.
Okay, so if you're trying to avoid GMOs, anything that's made with corn, canola, soy, any sugar that's derived from sugar beet, any cottonseed oil, all of those ingredients you'll find in processed foods, and those are primarily made from genetically modified crops. If you're looking in the whole food section of your produce department, any papaya that's imported from Hawaii, any zucchini, crookneck squash, alfalfa, and since last summer, sweet corn is also at risk for being genetically modified. So for the whole foods, I would recommend that you either grow your own zucchini or buy organic if you're going to buy it in the grocery store. Corn is a big problem these days because of the cross-contamination issues. And so if you're going to buy anything that contains corn, I would highly recommend that you buy something that's non-GMO project verified because the limit for cross-contamination in any products that are non-GMO project verified is 0.9%, which is similar to the labeling threshold that's used in Europe and abroad. So
wow.
and you can go online to the Non-GMO Project website, nongmoproject.org, and you can find a list of all the companies that participate in their certification program, and it's a great place to find safe food.
Excellent. I appreciate that resource.
And
I should also
one more
tell you. Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say there's one more in the pipeline from what I understand. Del Monte has recently had a pineapple approved. It's being grown in Costa Rica. It's called the rosé pineapple. So if you see any pink pineapple, which is what it is, it's a transgenic fruit, and I highly recommend avoiding it because there's been no testing to really prove that it's safe. So, yeah.
Beautiful.
Why do we need pink pineapple? Could somebody tell me?
I can see an agenda here. As October comes along and it's breast cancer awareness month, and we're going to sell a whole lot of pink pineapples. Oh boy.
Oh boy, I'll tell you, as far as breast cancer awareness goes, there was a study that was published very recently in the last few weeks that links Roundup, or glyphosate actually, which is the active ingredient in Roundup, to breast cancer cell growth. So there's some very disturbing stuff going on with our food supply because most all of these GMOs are actually, quote-unquote, Roundup ready. They're all sprayed with Roundup, and there are levels of glyphosate present in all of these foods. So we're eating it, and no, it isn't safe. And hopefully they'll focus on that during breast cancer awareness.
I got a feeling.
It needs to be addressed.
Yeah, I got a feeling the pink ribbons are all going to point to GMO GMO foods. Kellogg's will have pink ribbons on everything.
Yep.
I want to give you a little credit here, Diane, because you pointed me in a direction of a gentleman named Paul Fonder who's going to be on this program next Monday, and
yay.
You were just talking about finding some resources that are non-GMO, growing your own zucchini and so on and so forth. Well, Paul is an organic farmer, and so we're going to kind of get into that side. Yeah, we're going to get on that side of things come Monday. So I appreciate you bringing that up. I had something I was going to go into there, and it just went poof out of my head.
Could I mention something about Paul while you think about it? Paul just shared with me last night that he's actually just done his own mini feeding study, and what he did was he took 2 ears of corn. One of them was organic and one was genetically modified, and I believe he left them in his barn to see what the mice would do with them, and forgot about them for several months, went back in, and he found that the mice had devoured the organic corn, and the genetically modified ear of corn was basically untouched. And there's been actually quite a lot of, I guess it's almost anecdotal evidence that animals, when given a choice, will avoid GMOs, but, it's really starting to be proven. And there's speculation, why is this? Why will animals avoid GMO corn? And it could potentially be because there was a relatively recent nutritional analysis done on genetically modified corn versus conventional real food corn, and they found a couple things. One of the things they found, which was quite disturbing, was they found levels of formaldehyde in the genetically modified corn. So there is, a theory that says that animals are much more sensitive to the smell of formaldehyde, and that is why they're put off and they don't eat it. They also did find nutritional deficiencies, actually, in the genetically modified corn versus the conventional, traditional, real food corn, which is, another disturbing factor. But not surprising to me, because if you know anything about Roundup, glyphosate is actually a chelator, and what it does is it draws the healthy minerals and nutritional components out of the soil. And when you repeatedly grow a crop, which it's all monoculture farming, on the same field, you're bound to have less nutrients in the soil after years of doing it.
Yes, and that's a big issue. That's a big issue for me too, because as someone who went and obtained a bachelor in theology and knows a little bit about the scriptures, we have not taken care of our land very well. We don't ever give it a rest, and if we do give it a rest, we never allow the nutrients to be absorbed back in the soil again. So we got lots of problems there.
Well, we do, and conventional farming, is all based on crop rotation, and monoculture is totally the opposite. They don't bother with crop rotation, and it's disturbing. It really is. It's depleting our soil.
It is, and what I did finally think about what I was trying to think about. I've seen some studies, and it might have been on your website, dealing with pig stomachs.
That was a very recent study, and I think it was a groundbreaking study that was recently published. The study was done in Iowa, and that's where the pigs actually resided. Sorry, can you still hear me?
Yes, I can.
And the scientist that actually did the research and conducted the study was from Australia. Her name is Judy Carmen. And the study used a very large sample of pigs. I believe it was 130-something pigs, which has a lot of statistical validity in terms of the findings. So nobody could say the sample size was too small. And they had a control group that was fed conventional, traditional food. It was corn and soy. And then they also had a group that was fed specifically genetically modified corn and soy. And the animals were fed for 5 months, which I believe is the traditional period of time before they're slaughtered for food. And at the 5-month mark, they were slaughtered, and it was a totally blind autopsy exercise that was conducted. They had some veterinarians that participated in the autopsies. They had no idea which sample they were autopsying, whether it was from the conventional fed or the GMO fed. And they looked at two things. They looked at inflammation in the digestive tract, the stomach and the intestines, and they also measured the weight of the uterus in the female pigs. There have been many instances being reported of animals that have been fed genetically modified feed having fertility problems. And what they found was they found a much higher level of inflammation in the digestive tract of the GMO-fed animals, as well as a 25% on average heavier uterus in the GMO-fed animals. So it's quite curious for me because my daughter actually has some uterine problems. And, we're hoping now that we're taking GMOs out of her diet very, very strictly that she'll normalize So I think there is a very large relationship in terms of the anatomy of pigs to humans, which is another reason that this study has so much significance.
Yes. Something just came to my mind when you were talking about that, and it's related, but it's not on the pig subject. The biotech industry, obviously, one of the big dogs is Monsanto. If we look at different ways in which Monsanto gets supported, one of the things that we run into is, I was looking at this just the other day. Most of the people who participate in 401k plans or pension plans, they're investing into these mutual funds. A lot of these mutual funds involve Monsanto. Almost, 70 to 80% of the mutual funds that are out there have Monsanto within the variety of stocks or whatever that's offered within that mutual fund. I wonder what can be done to. I was disgusted by that.
It is disgusting. And at one point, I think we actually reached out to Vanguard funds. It was last summer or fall, and we had a massive campaign to post on their Facebook page to let them know we wanted the Monsanto stock out of their portfolios. It's very disturbing. They are everywhere. They're just everywhere. And I think the best thing that you can do is reach out if you have a financial advisor and communicate your concerns, and also reach out directly to the mutual fund managers. To contact the companies and tell them that you're not happy that they're invested in Monsanto, and that's not where you want to be.
Right.
Because you have to, speaking up is the most powerful thing you can do, and the more people that reach out and speak up, the message will get out.
Yeah, I wonder if we can't communicate this point out there on the internet radio, and get somebody who can put together a clever way of putting together a what we can call maybe a patriot mutual fund or something that has all the really good companies in it and leaves out all these crappy, terrible, tyrannical companies. I don't know.
Yeah, that's for sure. I know it. One thing I'd like to point out, food for thought, we tend to call these companies biotechs. In my mind, that gives them too much legitimacy. What they really are is they're agrochemical companies. And they mess with our food, and they engineer it so that it can tolerate more chemicals and so that it can produce its own chemicals. And it's all about chemicals. And if you ask me, I don't think chemical companies have any place messing with our food. It's just irresponsible. So I like to call them agrochemical companies rather than biotechs.
Okay, duly noted.
Yeah.
I will call them agrochemical companies.
Yep. I do say biotechs now and then as well, because it's just kind of ingrained that that's what they are. But I think agrochemical is much more descriptive of who they really are.
No, you're right. And look at the history they have. They go all the way back to Agent Orange and
DDT and PCBs. It's for sure. Yeah.
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 And what they don't want you to know now is that their technology is failing. There have been a number of studies that are pointing to the fact that the technology is failing, and they're pretty much just trying to move on to stronger chemicals. And there's corn in the pipeline that they're trying to get approval for, which is not only tolerant of Roundup, it's not only Roundup ready, but it can be sprayed with Agent Orange 2,4-D. Now, can you just imagine what it'll be like to put 2,4-D in our food and start eating that stuff? It's so disturbing. It's in the pipeline.
Yeah, yummy.
That's their answer. Yeah, that's their answer. More chemicals.
Right. Wow. And I noticed that when India, there's a lot of farmers in India that are committing suicide. Dealing with these genetically modified crops, dealing with Roundup, so on and so forth. And I don't know if it's the chemicals that are causing them to go insane, or if it's the loss that they're taking, because they actually were doing better farming organically than they did with the genetically modified organisms, which was actually promoted to be more, high-end yields.
That's right. They've been misled. They've been totally misled. They've been sold a bill of goods, and unfortunately, the seed supply is being monopolized now. So for them to be able to find seed which is not genetically modified is extremely difficult. And what's happening is the technology is failing, the crops fail, so the yield doesn't deliver, and they're left with a massive bill. And from what I understand, which I heard right from the horse's mouth from Vandana Shiva at a conference in Hawaii in January, over 270,000 farmers have committed suicide to date. And one of the things that's most disturbing is what they do is they actually drink Roundup to commit suicide. Because they can't pay their bills. Yeah, they can't pay their bills. They don't have, the crops to sell because they fail. And they just feel that they're in a totally futile situation and that they don't want to live anymore. It's so, so sad. Yep.
Well, we're down to about 9 minutes left in the program, and I wonder maybe this would be a good time for you to reach out to people and see how many people we can't get to join hands across America and help you out. Do you have some contacts maybe that you'd like to share at this point?
We would absolutely love help. We, just thrive on having volunteer help. That's how we've been growing. So anybody who would like to help can email us at gmofreeusa@gmail.com. We would love to hear from you. We could use help with campaign directors, for the Gerber campaign and graphics design and computer programming and anything pretty much skill-wise that would be fitting for a nonprofit. We would just love to hear from you.
And are you at this point taking any kind of donations or anything? Is there a way for people to get money to you, or how does that work?
Not yet, unfortunately. But what we could use is some pro bono legal help to set up our nonprofit. So if there's anyone who would be able to do that, we would welcome that help as well. That would be phenomenal. Yeah.
Okay. Some pro bono legal work.
Yes.
Excellent. Okay. Well, then, all right. Well, so you've released your contact information, and we know how to find you at gmofreeusa.org, which I would recommend everybody to go and make that a favorite and check up on it every day because they got all kinds of stuff going on all the time there. Do you have a blog, Diana?
Actually, the best place to connect with us is on Facebook. That's where most of the current information is being shared. We do blog posts, but we're not doing them as often right now because we're focusing on other things, which is trying to, get our nonprofit up and running. So, yeah.
Okay. All right. So they can find you at Facebook at the same place, GMO Free USA. They got a group there. It's real big and a lot of cool stuff.
We have a group
going
and a Facebook page. That's right. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So, well, at this point, I think we've covered so much, and unless you have something further that you'd like to dig into here, I could just, I don't know where else to go on this, Diana.
Oh, the one thing I forgot to mention, actually, is that alfalfa has also been approved as a genetically modified crop. So if you're going to buy any alfalfa sprouts, you want to make sure they're organic.
Alfalfa, okay. All right.
Yes. Yep, forgot to put that one in there, but everyone should know, especially if you're trying to eat healthy and you're buying sprouts.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, Diana, I guess what I'll do is I'll thank you once again for being on our program today, and I thank you for what you're doing, for the assault on GMOs that you're leading, because we need this. Really, humanity needs this. This is a bigger call than one woman. So you need a lot of help, and I appreciate you using this platform to reach out to people. We'll spread this far and wide.
Well, thank you so much, and thank you for having me on today, and thank you for all you do, Rick, because you are awesome. And tell Paul I said hi when you have him on as well.
Okay, I will
thank
definitely.
him for me.
I will definitely do that, and so I will at this point I will let you go, and I'll play out some music or something.
Okay, awesome. Thanks again.
All right. Yep. You have a great day.
All right. Take care. Bye-bye.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that was Diana Reeves. She was, of course, the coordinator of GMOFreeUSA.org. Very, very good, very good thing going on there. She is full of a wealth of information. I look forward to hearing from her in the future as to some of the things that she's doing, and as the boycott list begins to grow, because I know it's going to. It's just a matter of time before enough people get involved in this to where all GMOs are consumed in this boycott list, and it will force the hand of the food producers to actually produce quality, real food. So with about 4 minutes left in the program, I think what I'm going to do, let's see here, is I'm going to call a friend. This is like, what do you call it? Want to be a millionaire, right? I'm going to call a friend. Let's see if he's available at this moment. And it's not dialing or something here, so it's kind of weird. All right. Well, without any, let's do this. We're just going to go ahead and end the show. I appreciate you all listening. Where's my closing music? There it is. So, for Diana Reeves, this is Rick Hidalgo. This has been the House of Hidalgo show on the Estate Radio Network. We thank you all for coming by. God bless you all and stay safe.